We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
The US and the UK confirmed the evacuation operation will go ahead despite the attack.
We're able to continue with the programme in the way that we've been running it according to the timetable that we've got.
For 12 American service personnel to have been killed, particularly after we're hearing reports of the president and the Pentagon. Well, there were certainly warnings that there would be a total breakdown in security should the Taliban take over in this way. If we see more American casualties in Afghanistan, what could that mean for the president?
It's not just the casualties, but there was something else in there that the president addressed, and it was one of the questions towards the end that is going to be problematic for Joe Biden. And that is reporting that allegedly some U.S. officials had provided the list of names of Americans who were allowed to penetrate the perimeter to the airport. The list was not only generated, but it was allegedly turned over to the Taliban. And what some critics of the president are alleging is that essentially the United States supplied its enemies, albeit ones that are cooperating temporarily, with an alleged kill list of Americans and Afghans who have supported the U.S. mission. And this has outraged Americans, not just on Capitol Hill, but around the United States. And the U.S. president did not deny it. He said that he wasn't 100% sure that this had occurred, but he said it was not out of the realm of possibility. In fact, there are times when he admitted that the military had notified the Taliban that buses of Americans would be coming through. That is going to haunt this president in addition to this foreign policy crisis. As he says that he is protecting the American public, many people are going to pin the blame on him, even if the president wasn't directly involved in generating that list. As you heard there, he takes full responsibility, and this is something that has occurred under his watch.
Thank you very much, Kimberly Halkett, with all the latest from the White House for now. Thank you. Of course, just a recap of our breaking news story this hour. Medical sources in Afghanistan have told Al Jazeera that as many as 60 people were killed in 2 explosions outside Kabul's international airport. We had confirmation from the Pentagon earlier that there were 2 suicide bombers from the IS in Afghanistan group. Charles Stratford now reports.
Ambulances rush through the streets to collect the wounded. Bodies are lifted onto stretchers. The 2 attacks by suicide bombers happened close to the Abbey Gate entrance of Kabul airport, near the Baron Hotel.
There was a sudden explosion. We climbed out and saw that there were many people affected. People were hurled everywhere. Their brains were scattered. There were also foreign forces who were falling. I saw at least 400 or 500 people there. The explosion was really powerful. Half were hurled into the water, others on the ground outside. We carried the wounded here on stretchers, and here, my clothes are completely bloodied.
The Baron Hotel is controlled by the UK and NATO forces. It is one of the places where tens of thousands of Afghans have been gathering after the Taliban took control of Kabul on August the 15th. They've been going there to have their papers processed before being evacuated out of the country. Western governments and security experts in Kabul had been warning about potential attacks around the airport for days. The Taliban told Al Jazeera it had intelligence about potential car bombs in the area and also warned people to stay away. An increasing number of NATO countries have already announced a halt to their evacuation operations. And these attacks jeopardize remaining flights, meaning many Afghans who want to leave their country and may have all the necessary documents to do so could be left behind. The Taliban have condemned the attacks and vowed to bring the perpetrators to justice. But suicide bombings like these, not dissimilar to those that the Taliban used against what it often described as foreign invaders, show just the kind of security challenges the movement faces. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera, Kabul.
Well, Rob McBride joins us live now from Kabul. And Rob, we heard from President Biden earlier that he was saying, although millions of Afghans would like to be able to leave the country, he can't be responsible for getting them all out. And given the scenes that we've been seeing in recent days of Afghans swarming the airport in Kabul there and enduring some inhumane conditions just to be able to get onto one of these evacuation flights, whether they have the permission to do it or not. And what is the feeling, what is the mood there in Kabul tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he said a couple of interesting things that pertain directly to the situation here in Afghanistan about the evacuation, that the United States will not be put off its mission. It will carry on with this evacuation exercise. It will be completed. It's sort of going to carry on with this steady course, if you like. And interestingly, he said that with this deadline coming up between now and the deadline, which we know has been set at 31st of August, that's midnight Tuesday, our time here in Afghanistan, he started talking about other ways of trying to get the people that need to be got onto planes. That's still people with US passports or green card holders, as he said, but also people who may have worked with US forces who are eligible for special visas to be able to get out so they don't face reprisals here. He was talking about different means, maybe use of buses. We know that the US has used helicopters, for example, at special rendezvous points to take groups of people across the perimeter so they don't have to go through these gates and the crowds that are amassed around there, but directly onto the tarmac, onto the runway, and then onto the evacuation plane. So it's interesting that he was, I think the US is now thinking more on those lines about other ways of getting people into the airport rather than the horrific scenes that we've witnessed this Thursday of running the gauntlet, if you like, of the dangers that the perimeter now poses. And also, interestingly, beyond the deadline, talking about continuing to get out America's friends and people who have been associated with US missions. Now, this is far trickier because, of course, this is after the deadline. This is after US forces have left. There will be no embassy here. So how do you go about trying to get out people who still have a right to move to the United States, to have US protection? And that requires and will require a lot more cooperation from, example, the Taliban government, the issuing of passports to people, Afghans who want to leave. That's got to be handled by the Afghan government. Safe passage has to be given to an airport that is operating commercial flights for those people to be able to get commercial flights and visas to leave the country, etc. So that's a lot trickier, but he did indicate that there will be a continuing program, very low key, very below the radar, so as not to upset the Taliban government, to try to carry on getting people out of Afghanistan and to the United States. And just finally, there was a very interesting point he made about, to those who've carried out this attack, we will find you, we will hunt you down, talking about the use of force and very precision use of force. Does that mean drone strikes, other kind of special forces operations? Because, of course, this is all after the United States is meant to have completed its military involvement after 20 long years in Afghanistan. Well, it will have completed that, it will have left, but is it now going to come back with these special targeted drone strikes, for example, against the kind of forces, the kind of fighters which are directly threatening American interests, as we've seen in this horrific attack Thursday night, and the same kinds of forces that originally went into Afghanistan after, namely Al-Qaeda in 2001.
All right, thank you very much. For now, Rob McBride in the Afghan capital, Kabul.